Good morning from Europe. This is Ahura, and today is Monday, September 15. We'll be with you with the short review on economic calendar and market condition. On the economic calendar so far, let's start with the Friday's U.S. oil and gas rig counts. Baker Hughes oil rig counts. So let me check the data. Here is. Okay, the rig count increased by 416, increased to 416, up from previous 414. That means that we can expect more output from the U.S. oil production. I have to mention that the previous 414 also has been increased from 412. So that means that for the second week in a row, we can see this rig count is increasing. The total rig count also increasing. The gas also increased to 539 from previous 537. Today, New Zealand service sector had weaker number, while in South Korea, the trade surplus increased or hold positive, mostly because of weaker imports. In the UK, house price recovered slightly. We can say that in September fell by 0.1%, compared with the 0.3 previous 3%. Previous month's 3% improvement on the monthly scale. Also, house price increased only 0.4% after 1.3% fall on previous month. Generally, this data says that the UK house price slightly, even though it has slightly recovered from the previous month, but still weak, which can be somehow the good news. Which can be some good for the inflation in United Kingdom, as the inflation is so high. Chinese housing market. Chinese housing market because continued, even thought with slight improvement from minus 2.8%. The house price fell by 2.5%, but still is a contraction area and signaling of the bigger housing market. That's, we can say, probably the Chinese housing market is in just like it still can be one of the most and biggest concern in the Chinese economy, as the demand is slowing, and this lower demand for the Chinese house can increase the risk in the economy. Fixed asset investment also continued falling down by continued to slowing down, better say, by only 0.5% increase, while the previous month it increased by 1.6%. Chinese industrial output also slightly, the improvement slightly eased and increased by only 5.2%. Compared previous 5.7% increase. Retail sales improvement also slightly eased from 3.7% increase in July. In August, it increased only 3.4%. Generally, the economy is losing slightly the momentum in August. That's what the data says. Unemployment rate also in China, which increased to 5.3%. Now it says that it is above 5% for almost 2 years. The other data that we had so far, they were not too much important from the producer price index. So, for example, in Switzerland, which fell by 1 point, where is that? It fell something was like, with 1.8% annual and 0.6% monthly. Today's data, they were, the most important data it was there in a year or so. We're going to have the trade balance, but that was those data, they were the most important data which we had so far. Continuing today, the wholesale price also, or wholesale index also from Canada could be important. In Israel, we're going to have the inflation numbers, which is expected to slightly ease on the annual scale. Monthly, it should increase slightly, and we're going to have action for 3 and 6 months bills in the United States. That's but the most important data that we had so far we had in the market, and continuing today, it's not going to be a heavy day as in economic calendar, but we are starting a very heavy week with the central banks meetings in the spotlight, while the earnings reports also should be watched more closely. After weekend's trade talk between US and China, we can see that the market risk still slowing down, and it's still slow, but if you look at the historical levels, it's not too much low. I mean, if you go, back, you do see that the index at 15 is not too much low, but yeah, I mean, it's under 16 and at 15.50 almost, and we can say that the market risk for now is slightly low. But from the historical levels, it's slightly above the historical levels, as you can see here. Dollar index staying stable between 97 and 98. We expect to see the same levels until the Fed meeting on Wednesday. And after the Fed meeting, we can say that, okay, now the market can change its direction and can show the better, I mean, can increase, can have the better idea of where to go after the Fed meeting, after especially the dot plot that we're gonna have after Federal Reserve meeting. Gold is moving sideways. We probably can have some correction before Fed meeting, but generally the market is still positive. Same things we can say for the silver. In the energy market, gas price after last week's Thursday and Friday is slightly increased. Same we can say for the oil after increasing tensions between Russia and Western countries, which U.S. President Donald Trump told NATO members that do not buy oil production and oil from Russia. That probably these sanctions can probably increase the tensions in the market and can hold the price above $60 so far. In stock markets, S&P 500, Nasdaq, and Dow Jones, all of them, they were positive, especially the Nasdaq after weekend's trade talk between US and China, which mostly it was in favor of tech companies. In a cryptocurrency market, Bitcoin still positive and can as you can see the price at 116,000 moving higher. As mentioned before, also price, as long as price moves above 109,000 is positive, but if we could, as mentioned before, above 113,000 is where we can say that, okay, this uptrend can continue further. But yeah, 109,000 is the pivot point. Somehow we can say it's the pivot point, but above 113,000, the bulls will have more power to continue the trend. Next target could be around 118,000. That's what happened in the market and market expectations for today. Hope it was useful for you. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.